Welcome back, football fans. Big Al here on this late Tuesday night. It's December 26th, 2023. And welcome back to part 2 of the Week 16 edition of the week that was. Here we'll be looking at the 3 late games from Sunday, including the Dallas Cowboys at the Miami Dolphins, the Christmas Eve night affair with the New England Patriots and the Denver Broncos, and the Christmas Day triple header featuring the Raiders at the Chiefs, the Giants at the Eagles, and the Ravens at the 49ers in a potential Super Bowl preview. Plus, coming up, my Week 17 power rankings and the updated playoff races in the NFL entering Week 17. Part 1 is already up. We looked at Thursday night football with the Rams and Saints, the 2 games from Saturday, and the 6 early games from Sunday. Those are all up right now in part 1. So go ahead and check that one out and then circle back to this one. All right. With all that out the way, let's jump into part 2 of our Week 16 edition of the week that was. And we'll start off with a all-Florida battle as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars 30-12. All right, both teams are now 8-7, and Jacksonville has lost 4 in a row. Start with individual numbers for the Bucs. Baker Mayfield, 26 of 35, 283 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 116.7 passer rating. Rachaad White was the leading rusher for the Bucs. 20 rushes, 39 yards, and a touchdown, just 2 yards per carry. And then you've got Chase Edmonds, 10 carries, 25 yards on 2.5 yards per run. 5 rushes, 5 yards. Chris Godwin, 1 rush for 1 yard. On to the Tampa Bay receivers led by Mike Evans, 7 catches, 86 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 8 targets at 12.3 yards per catch. Chris Godwin, 6 for 78 on 11 targets, 13 yards a catch. Palmer, 4 for 42 on 6 targets, 10.5 per catch. Rachaad White, 6 for 38 on 7 targets, 6.3 per catch. Durham, 1 reception, 25 yards. Cade Otton, and David Moore both had 1 catch for 7 yards, and all 3 receivers were targeted once. Chase McLaughlin, 3 for 3 on field goals. His longest was 51, 3 for 3 on extra points. Camarda, 2 punts at 50.5 yards per punt. At long was 51, and 1 punt inside the 20. Shifting to the defense now, Levante David led Tampa's defense with 8 tackles and 1 sack. Eisen had 4 tackles. Diaby, 4 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. Jamil Dean, 4 tackles. Antoine Winfield, 3 tackles, 1 sack, 1 pass defense, and an interception. White with 2 tackles, half a sack, 2 passes defense, and an interception. Delaney, 2 tackles and 1 pass defense. McCollum had 2 tackles, a forced fumble, and a pass defense. Tyrone Shoyinka and Merriweather. Let me try that again without yawning. Tyrone Shoyinka and Merriweather each had 2 tackles for the Buccaneers. As for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence started the game. He was 17 of 29 for 211 yards with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions and a QB rating of 64. So he got out of a rough game. He would be replaced with C.J. Beathard, 11 of 15, 94 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, and a 111.5 QB rating. Trevor Lawrence was also the leading rusher for the Jags, 4 rushes, 29 yards at 7.3 per run. Travis Etienne, 6 for 12 on 2 per carry. C.J. Beathard, 1 rush, 6 yards. Johnson, 1 rush, 2 yards. Calvin Ridley, 1 rush for -12. As for the receivers for the Jaguars, Evan Ingram, 10 catches, 95 yards, 15 targets, 9.5 per catch. Calvin Ridley, 6 for 90 yards and 2 scores on 9 targets at 15 per catch. Cooks, 3 for 38 on 3 targets at 12.7 a catch. Sorry. Jones, 3 for 32 on 5 targets at 10.7 a catch. Parker Washington, 2 catches, 19 yards on 4 targets, 9.5 per catch. Travis Etienne, 3 catches, 19 yards on 3 targets, 6.3 per catch. Jamal Agnew, 1 catch, 12 yards on 4 targets. And Johnson, 1 catch, 2 yards on 1 target. Brandon McManus, 0 for 1 on field goals and no extra points attempted. Cook, just 1 punt the entire day for 65 yards. Olakun led the Jaguars defense with 7 tackles. Kimball and Williams each with 4. 3 tackles from Jenkins, Walker, Lloyd, Robinson Harris, and Hamilton. Add a sack for Walker and add a sack for Robertson Harris. Herndon, 2 tackles, 2 passes defense. Fatukasi, 2 tackles. Gotsis, 2 tackles, 3 passes defense for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Total yards, Buccaneers 335, Jacksonville 305. Passing yards, a slim advantage to Jacksonville, 268 to 265. Rushing nearly 2-1 towards Tampa Bay, 70 to 37. Truth be told, neither team ran the ball well. Time of possession, Buccaneers 37 minutes, 7 seconds. Jaguars 22 minutes and 53 seconds. Jacksonville had 23 first downs to Tampa Bay's 22. All right, third down, 3 of 9 for the Jaguars, 10 of 19 for the Bucs. Fourth downs, Jacksonville was 1 for 3 and Tampa Bay 1 for 2. Jaguars 2 penalties, 20 yards, 4 sacks allowed and 37 yards, or rather 4 sacks taken for 37 yards. 2 lost fumbles, 2 interceptions, 1 punt. And for the Buccaneers, 6 penalties, 44 yards, 2 sacks taken, 14 yards. No lost fumbles, no interceptions, and 2 punts. Closing line is Jacksonville -2.5. Over-under is 43. I picked Tampa Bay both straight up and against the spread. All right, next up, we'll look at the Chicago Bears and their 27-16 victory over the Arizona Cardinals. The Bears are mathematically still alive in the NFC wildcard picture at 6-9. The Arizona Cardinals, meanwhile, dropped to 3-12. We'll start with individual numbers for the Bears. Justin Fields, 15 of 27, 170 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 71.5 passer rating. Leading rusher was Khalil Herbert, 20 for 112 and a touchdown on 5.6 per run. Justin Fields ran just as effectively, 9 for 97 and a touchdown on 10.8. Johnson, 9 for 37 on 4.1 per tote, and Jones, 1 rush for 4. Cole Kmet led the Bears receivers with 4 catches, 107 yards on 5 targets, 26.8 yards per catch. DJ Moore, 3 catches, 18 yards for 6 targets, and 6 yards per catch. Johnson, 3 for 16 on 3 targets, 5.3 yards per catch. Tanyan, 1 catch, 14 yards on his only target. Khalil Herbert, 1 catch, 9 yards on 2 targets. Darnell Mooney, 2 catches, 6 yards, or rather 2 catches, 5 yards on 4 targets, 2.5 per catch. Lewis, 1 catch, 1 yard, 1 touchdown on his only target. Jones had a target and no catches. Cairo Santos, 2 for 2 on field goals. 49 was his long. 3 for 3 on extra points. Gill, 5 punts, 52 yards average. Long was 76. 1 touchback, 2 punts inside the 20. On defense, Gordon led the way with 6 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 pass defense. Tremaine Edwards, 5 tackles. Brisker, 4 tackles, and a pass defense. Oh, that's TJ Edwards with the 5 tackles. Sorry about that. Here's Tremaine Edmonds. He had 4 tackles. Eddie Jackson had 3 tackles. We got another Johnson on the roster. He had 3 tackles. Stevenson, 3 tackles, 1 pass defense. Smith, 3 tackles, 2 passes defense. Walker with 2 tackles. Jones, 2 tackles and a sack. And Montez Sweat, 2 tackles and a pass defense for the Bears. For the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray, 24-38, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 97.5 passer rating. Leading rusher was James Conner, 12 rushes, 45 yards, 3.8 per run. Kyler Murray, 5 for 32 on 6.4. DeMarcado, 2 rushes, 10 yards on 5 per run. Rondale Moore, 1 rush for 6. James Conner was also Arizona's leading receiver with 5 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown on 5 targets, 13.4 yards per catch. Greg Dortch, 2 catches, 45 yards and a touchdown on 5 targets, 22.5 per catch. DeMarcado, 7 catches, which led the team, 40 yards on 8 targets, 5.7 yards per catch. Trey McBride, 6 for 31 on 8 targets, 5.2 per catch. Rondale Moore, 2 grabs, 30 yards, 3 targets, 15 per catch. Higgins, 2 catches, 17 yards on 3 targets, 8.5 per catch. Wilson and Carter had no catches. Carter had 1 target. Wilson had 4. All right. Matt Prater, 1 for 1 on field goals. Only attempt was from 55. 1 for 1 on extra points. Gillikin, 6 punts at 52.2 yards per punt. His long was 77 with 1 touchback and 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. On defense, Buda Baker and Starling Thomas V led the Cardinals D with 7 tackles apiece. 6 tackles for Barnes. Then you've got 4 tackles, 3 passes defense, and 1 for Jalen Thompson. Thomas with 3 tackles. Strong and Lopez, 2 tackles each. Gardeck also 2 tackles plus a sack. Shashir, 1 tackle, 1 pass defense. Hamilton, 1 tackle, 2 passes defense for the Arizona Cardinals. Total yards, 420 for the Bears and 306 for the Redbirds. Passing yards 213 to 170 for Arizona. Rushing was 250 to 93 Chicago. Time of possession, Bears 34 minutes 32 seconds. Cardinals 25 minutes 28 seconds. First downs, 22 for Chicago, 16 for Arizona. Third down, 7 of 16 for Arizona and 8 for 15 for Chicago. Cardinals went 0 for 1 on fourth down. No fourth downs for the Bears. 2 penalties, 8 yards on the Cardinals. They were sacked twice for 17. No lost fumbles, no interceptions, and 6 punts. Bears were penalized 5 times for 35 yards, only 1 sack, no yards lost, no fumbles lost, 1 interception, and 5 punts. So that was a punt fest in that game. Closing line was Chicago minus 4.5. Over under is 42. I took the Bears straight up and the Cardinals with the points, so I won the straight up pick, lost the ATS. Moving on to one of the games of the week, the Miami Dolphins get a last-second field goal and take down the Dallas Cowboys 22-20. The win pushes Miami to 11-4, and they remain 2 games ahead of Buffalo for first place in the AFC East with 2 games left, including their Week 18 encounter in Miami. Meanwhile, Dallas has dropped back-to-back games. They are now 10-5. Individual numbers for the Miami Dolphins to start off. Tua Tagovailoa, 24-37, 293, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and a 98.1 QB rating. Leading rusher was Raheem Mostert, 11 for 46 on 4.2 per run. Devin Achane, 7 for 24 yards, 3.4 per run. Wilson, 5 for 21 on 4.2. Jalen Waddle had a rush for 2 yards. And Tua ran twice for -2. All right. Leading the Dolphin receivers was Tyreek Hill, 9 for 99 yards on 14 targets, 11 yards per catch. Smythe, 5 catches, 56 yards on 5 targets, 11.2 per catch. Jalen Waddle, only 1 catch, but it was a biggie. It went for 50 yards. He had 4 targets in the game. Cedric Wilson, 3 catches, 42 yards, 5 targets at 14 per catch. Chosen, 1 catch, 19 yards on his only target. Ingold, 2 catches, 12 yards, 2 targets at 6 per grab. Achane, 1 catch, 7 yards on 3 targets. All right, there's another Wilson. Cedric Wilson. And then you've got Jeff Wilson, who's a running back. He had 1 catch for 4 yards on his only target. Raheem Mostert, 1 catch, 4 yards on his only target, but his catch went for a touchdown. Jason Sanders, the place kicker for the Miami Dolphins, 5 for 5 on field goals. His longest was 57. And the 5th field goal turned out to be the game winner. Sanders was also 1 for 1 extra points. Bailey, 2 punts at 55.5 per punt. His long was 58 and 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. Switching over to the Dolphins, Van Ginkel had himself a game. 7 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and a pass defense. Jones also had 7 tackles. Riley and Jalen Ramsey each had 4 tackles apiece. Xavier Howard, 3 tackles, 1 pass defense. Bradley Chubb, 3 tackles, 1.5 sacks. Kohu, 3 tackles. Seiler, 2 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. Wilkins, Ingram, and Elliott each with 2 tackles for the Dolphins. Switching over to the Dallas Cowboys now, Dak Prescott, 20 of 32, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, QB rating of 107.9. Leading rusher was Tony Pollard, and he didn't do a lot, 12 for 38 yards, 3.2 per run. Dak Prescott, 5 for 25, that's 5 per tote. CeeDee Lamb, 2 for 14 on 7 per run. Brandon Cooks, 1 for 9 yards. Dowdle, 2 for 4 yards. Turpin, 1 for 4 yards. That's Cavante Turpin. And Lupke, 2 rushes, 3 yards at 1.5 per rush. All right. CeeDee Lamb was the leading receiver and probably the only bright spot on this Cowboys offense outside of Dak. 6 catches, 118 yards, and a touchdown on 10 targets, 19.7 yards per catch. Tolbert, 2 for 51 on 2 targets, 25.5 per catch. Jalen Ferguson, 4 catches, 45 yards, 8 targets, 11.3 yards per catch. Brandon Cooks, 2 catches, 14 yards, and a touchdown on 2 targets, 7 yards per catch. Lupke, 1 catch, 8 yards on his only target. Pollard, 1 catch, 5 yards on his only target. Michael Gallup, 2 catches, 4 yards on 2 targets, 2 yards per catch. Cavante Turpin and Luke Schoonmaker, 1 catch for 4 yards each. Hendershot had 2 targets, but no catches. Likewise for Dowdle. Brandon Aubrey, 2 for 2 on field goals. Longest is 43. 2 for 2 on extra points. Brian Anger, 3 punts at 59.3 per punt. Long was 61. All right. Donovan Wilson led the Dallas defense with 8 tackles. Bell with 6 tackles. Clark, 5 tackles. Stephon Gilmore, 4 tackles. Lewis and Hooker, each with 3 tackles. Micah Parsons, 2 tackles, half a sack. Williams and Kearse, each with 2 tackles apiece for the Cowboys. All right. Total yards, Cowboys, or rather the Dolphins with 375. The Cowboys have 339. All right. Passing yards, 284 to 242 for Miami. Rush yards, 97 to 91, Dallas. Time of possession, Cowboys 31 minutes, 2 seconds. Dolphins 28 minutes, 58 seconds. Dolphins had 22 first downs, while the Cowboys had 19. Third downs, Dallas 4 of 12, Miami 6 of 4 downs. Dallas 2 for 2, Miami 0 for 1. 6 penalties, 38 yards for the Cowboys. 4 sacks taken for 11 yards. 1 fumble loss, no interceptions, 3 punts. 5 penalties, 33 yards for the Dolphins. 1 sack taken for 9 yards. No lost fumbles or interceptions. And they had 2 punts in the game. Closing line was Miami minus 1.5. Over under is 49. I took Dallas both straight up and with the points, lost both picks. So those are the Sunday afternoon games. Now let's move on to the Sunday night game. The New England Patriots go into Denver and upset the Broncos 26-23. The Patriots, out of the playoff pick, gets their 4th win of the season. They are now 4-11. And the Broncos were dealt a huge blow to their playoff chances. They fall to 7-8. But lucky for them, they're still only a game back with 2 left. Individual numbers for the Patriots. Bailey Zappi, 25 for 33, 256 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's probably his best game this year. QB rating of 117.7. Ezekiel Elliott held to 27 yards on 12 attempts. That's 2.3 per run. Harris, 7 for 21 on 3 per run. Thornton, 1 rush, 9 yards. Zappi, 1 rush for 2 yards. On to the receivers now. Demario Douglas, 5 catches, 74 yards on 8 targets, 14.8 yards per catch. Devontae Parker, 4 catches, 65 yards on 5 targets, 16.3 per catch. Zeke, 9 for 33 and a touchdown on 11 targets. That's 3.7 per grab. Jalen Reagor, 2 for 33, 2 targets, 16.5 per catch. Brown, 2 for 25 on 2 targets, 12.5 per catch. Gesicki, 2 for 15 and a touchdown on 2 targets, 7.5 per catch. Thornton, 1 reception for 11 yards on his. Chad Ryland, 2 for 3 on field goals. His longest was 56. And 2 for 3 as well on extra points. Behringer with 7 punts at 45.6 per punt. Longest was 53. 3 punts inside the 20. On to the defense now. Miles Bryant led the Patriot defense with 6 tackles and 1 pass defense. How about Christian Barmore, though? 5 tackles, fumble. He had himself a night. Bentley, 5 tackles. Mills with 5 tackles as well. Kyle Duggar, 4 tackles. Tavai, 4 tackles and a forced fumble. Wade, 3 tackles. 2 tackles for Wise, Gottschall, and Jennings. Wilson also had 2 tackles, add a sack, and a forced fumble to that for the Patriots. And for the Denver Broncos, Russell Wilson, 25 of 37, 237, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, QB rating of 103.1. So in this game, both quarterbacks threw it well. Let's see. McLaughlin, 6 rushes, 37 yards, led Denver's ground attack. He averaged 6.2 yards per run. That would be Jaleel McLaughlin. Williams, 11 rushes, 24 and a touchdown, 2.2 per run. Wilson, 4 for 20 on 5 per total. Samaje Perine, 1 rush, 2 yards. Burton, 1 rush, no yards. Jumping over to the receivers. Marvin Mims, 3 catches, 63 yards on 4 targets, 21 per catch. Johnson, 3 for 47 and a touchdown on 5 targets. Jerry Jeudy, 3 for 44 yards on 5 targets, 14.7. Jaleel McLaughlin, 4 for 30 yards on 5 targets at 7.5. Kroll, 4 catches, 28 yards and a touchdown on 5 targets, 7 per catch. Samaje Perine, 4 catches, 26 yards on 5 targets, 6.5 per catch. Burton, 1 catch, 4 yards on 1 target. Sutton and Troutman each had a target in the game, but no catches. Williams, 3 catches on 3 targets, but for minus 5 yards. All right. To special for 1 on field goals, 1 for 1 on extra points. Dixon, 7 punts, 43.1 yards per punt. His longest was 47, with 2 punts inside the 20-yard line. On defense, Singleton led Denver with 10 tackles and a pass defense. Locke, Sertan, and Simmons each had 5 tackles. Cooper had 4 plus a sack. Josie Jewell, 3 tackles. Jones, 2 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. And that's pretty much all there is for the Broncos defense. Everyone else either had 1 tackle or none. All right. Total yards, 289 for the Patriots, 276 for the Broncos. Passing was 230 to 193 New England. Rush was 83 to 59 Denver. Time of possession, Broncos 31 minutes, 18 seconds. Patriots 28 minutes and 42 seconds. First downs, 19 for the Broncos, 12 for the Pats. Patriots 3 of 13 on third downs with no fourth down plays. Broncos 13 on third down, 1 of 2 on fourth down. The Patriots had 3 penalties for 25 yards. They took 2 sacks for 26, 1 lost fumble, no interceptions, 7 punts. And the Broncos penalized only twice for 25 yards as well. They took 5 sacks for 45, 3 of those again from Christian Barmore. 2 lost fumbles, no interceptions, and they also had 7 sacks. Speaking of 7, closing line was Denver -7, and the over-under is 37.5. I picked Denver straight up, but I took New England with the points, and I think that was a wise move, New England plus the points, because I was expecting this to be close, and it was, as the Patriots end up winning outright and covering that touchdown spread of the Broncos. Okay, we've made it to the Christmas Day triple header. Game 1 was the Las Vegas Raiders upsetting the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead 20-14. We'll start with the individual numbers for Vegas. Aiden O'Connell really didn't have his best game. 9 of 21 for 62 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions, and a 50.3 QB rating. Zamir White put up some monster numbers in place of the injured Josh Jacobs. 1 for 145 yards at 6.6 per run. Abdullah 2 for 11 on 5.5. Tucker 1 rush 5 yards. Aiden O'Connell 4 rushes -4. As for the Raider receivers, leading the way was Jacoby Myers, 3 catches, 42 yards, 5 targets, 14 yards per catch. Austin Hooper 2 for 13 on 3 targets, 6.5 per catch. Fodder Wingham, 1 catch, 6 yards on his only target. Devontae Adams held to just 1 catch on 6 targets for 4 yards. Abdullah 1 catch, 1 target, 1 yard. Zamir White and Hunter Renfrow each had a target but no catches. Tucker had a catch, but it went for -4 yards. Daniel Carlson, 2 for 2 on field goals, longest 35. No extra points attempted. And I think that's AJ Cole. Let me check. Give me about 5 seconds. Yeah, I was right. AJ Cole. He had 6 punts, 45.2 average. Long was 50 with 3 punts inside the 20. On defense, Robert Spillane had 9 tackles. Nate Hobbs, 9 tackles and a pass defense. Divine Diablo, that has to be one of the coolest names in the history of mankind. He had 6 tackles. Robertson, 5 tackles, 1 pass defense. And then you got this young man, Malcolm Kuntz. 5 tackles and 3 sacks. How about that? And Jack Jones, the expatriate, 4 tackles, 1 pass defense, and a pick 6 interception return for a touchdown. Had 2 tackles and 2 passes defense. Masterson and Crosby 2 tackles east. Butler 2 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. And then the other defensive touchdown was a fumble by Patrick Mahomes, which was scooped up for a score for the Las Vegas Raiders. In fact, and I think it was the second quarter, the Raiders scored 2 defensive touchdowns in 7 seconds. So the offense pretty much next to nothing. The defense gets all the credit for this win. For the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, 27 of 44 for 235, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 73.6 passer rating. Off day at the office for Patrick Mahomes. Tommy Townsend, the punter for the Chiefs, completed his only pass attempt for 11 yards, which was a fake punt, which was converted into a first down. Townsend had a 112.5 passer rating. Mahomes, Kansas City's leading rusher, 10 for 53 at 5.3 per run. Isaiah Pacheco, 11 rushes, 26 yards, and a touchdown on 2.4. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 4 rushes, 6 yards on 1.5 per run. Rashid Rice led the Chiefs receivers, or should I say the Chiefs depleted receiving core. 6 catches, 57 yards, 12 targets, 9.5 yards per catch. James, 3 catches, 54 yards on 3 targets at 18 per catch. Travis Kelce, 5 catches, 44 yards, 7 targets, 8.8 per catch. And 2 uncharacteristically bad drops. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 3 catches, 42 yards, 3 targets at 14 per catch. Watson, 4 for 38 and a touchdown on 6 targets, 9.5 per catch. Noah Gray for 5 yards, 3 targets rather. Bell, 1 for 4 yards on his only target. Ross, 1 for 2 yards on his only target. Isaiah Pacheco, 0 yards on 4 catches and 4 targets. Marquez Valdez-Scantling had 1 target in the game, no catches. Harrison Butker, 0 for 1 on field goals, 2 for 2 on extra points. And the aforementioned Tommy Townsend, who threw a pass in this game. 4 punts, 41.8 yards per punt, 57 was his longest, with 2 punts inside the 20-yard line. Over now to the Chiefs defense. Nick Bolton, 5 tackles led the way. Reed, 4 tackles. McDuffie, 4 tackles. Connor, 3 tackles. L'Jarius Sneed, 3 tackles. Edwards, Nandi, and Gay, each with 2 tackles. And then Dana, 1 tackle and a pass defense for the Chiefs. Total yards, Kansas City 308, Las Vegas 205. Passing yards favored the Chiefs 223-48. Rush yards favored the Raiders 157-85. First downs, Chiefs 19, Raiders 12. Time of possession, Chiefs 34 minutes 18 seconds. Raiders 25 minutes 42 seconds. Vegas 3 of 12 on 3rd down, no 4th downs. Kansas City 5 of 16 on 3rd down, 3 of 5 on 4th down. 4 penalties, 20 yards for the Raiders. They took 2 sacks for 14 yards, no fumbles lost, no interceptions, and 6 punts. 5 penalties, 44 yards for the Chiefs. They took 4 sacks for 23. 1 lost fumble, 1 interception thrown, and 4 punts. Closing line was Kansas City minus 11. Over under was 40. I, of course, took the Chiefs straight up and with that massive point spread. But Vegas pulls off the upset, wins going away, and covers. So I lost both picks. Next, the Philadelphia Eagles held off the New York Football Giants 33-25 as Philadelphia wins their 11th straight home game against the Giants. And in the process, in the 3-game losing streak. Oh, by the way, the Chiefs are now 9-6 with the loss, while the Raiders improved to 7-8. Here, the Eagles are now 11-4, snapping that 3-game slide. The Giants, officially eliminated from playoff contention, sits at 5-10. All right, we'll start with individual numbers for the victorious Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles. Jalen Hurts, 24 of 38, 301, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 85.5 passer rating. DeAndre Swift, 20 for 92 yards on 1 touchdown on 4.6 per run. Kenneth Gainwell, 6 for 41, 6.8 per run. Jalen Hurts, 8 for 34, and a touchdown on a brotherly shove, 4.3 yards per run. Boston Scott, 1 rush for 3 yards. On to the Eagles receivers. A.J. Brown, 6 catches, 80 yards, 11 targets, 13.3 per catch. Devontae Smith, 4 for 79 and a touchdown on 5 targets, 19.8 per catch. Dallas Goedert, 7 for 71 on 9 targets, and 1 yards per catch. Kenneth Gainwell, 3 for 30 on 3 targets, 12.7 per catch. Cal Katora, 2 for 21 yards, 2 targets, 10.5 per. Covey, 1 catch, 7 yards on his only target. Julio Jones, 1 catch, 5 yards on 4 targets. Olamide Zaccheaus, 1 target in the game, but no catches. Jake Elliott, 4 for 4 on field goals. 44 was his longest. 3 for 3 on extra points. Braden Mann, 2 punts, 54 yards per. Longest was 54. And that's it for him. On to the defense. Shaq Leonard, in just his second game with the Eagles, 5 tackles, 1 sack. Kaylee Ringo, 5 tackles, 1 pass defense, 1 interception. Reed Blankenship with 4 tackles. Fletcher Cox also with 4 tackles. Williams, 3 tackles. James Bradbury, 3 tackles and a pass defense. Kevin Byard, 3 tackles. Van Sumiran, 2 tackles. Davis, 2 tackles. Hassan Reddick, 2 tackles. For the Philadelphia Eagles. Over to the New York Giants, Tommy DeVito, 9 of 16, 55 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 63.3 QB rating. He would be replaced in the third quarter by Tyrod Taylor, 7 of 16, 133, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 68 QB rating. Saquon Barkley, 23 rushes, 80 yards, and a touchdown, 3.5 yards per run. Taylor, 221, 10.5 per run. DeVito, 1 rush, 5 yards. It's the Killer D's that led the New York Giants receiving corps. Darius Slayton, 3 catches, 90 yards, a touchdown on 3 targets, and 30 yards per catch. Daniel Bellinger, 4 catches, 43 yards on 5 tackles, or 5 targets rather, 10.8 yards per catch. Darren Waller, 2 catches, 32 yards on 5 targets, 16 per grab. Wan'Dale Robinson, 3 for 16 on 7 targets, 5.3 yards a catch. Saquon Barkley, 3 for 4 yards on 6 targets, 1.3 a catch. Matt Breida, 1 catch for 3 yards on 1 target. Mason Crosby, who seems to be the Giants', I think, 5th place kicker this year, 1-for-1 on field goals. Only completion was 52 yards, or only make, I should say, was 52 yards. 2-for-2 on extra points. Gillen, 4 punts, 39.5 yards per. Longest was 44, and he had a couple inside the 20. The Giants' defense was led by Bobby Okereke with 8 tackles and 1 pass defense. Xavier McKinney, 7 tackles and half a sack. Deontay Banks, 6 tackles. Panic, 5 tackles, 1 forced fumble. Dexter Lawrence, 4 tackles. Jackson, 4 tackles, 2 passes defense. That's Adoree Jackson with the 4 tackles, 2 passes defense. And that interception return for a touchdown that went 76 yards in the third quarter. Simmons, 3 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and a pass defense. Belton, 3 tackles. McFadden, 2 tackles. McLeod, 2 tackles. Ward, 2 tackles, and half a sack for the Giants. My fault. Okay, total yards, 465 for the Eagles, 292 for the Giants. Passing yards, 295, 186. Rushing yards, 170 to 106, both favoring the Philadelphia. Time of possession, 34 minutes, 38 seconds for the Eagles. 25-22 for the New York Giants. First downs, 2-1 clip to the 28-14. The Giants finished 4 of 14 on third down, 3 of 5 on fourth down. And Philly was 8 of 15 on third down, 2 for 2 on fourth down. 3 penalties and 13 yards for the New York Giants. Took 1 sack for 2 yards. No lost fumbles, 1 interception, 4 punts. 9 penalties, 65 yards for the Eagles. 1 sack taken for 6 yards, 1 lost fumble, 1 interception, 2 punts. Closing line was Philadelphia minus 14. The over-under was 41. Eagles won straight up, but I lost the ATS pick as the Giants covered the 14 points, losing by 8, going away. And the final game of the week, saved the best for last. A potential Super Bowl 58 preview as Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens humble Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers 33-19. The Eagles, I forgot to mention, moved to 11-4. I think I said that, but I'll say it again. The Giants are 5-10. The Baltimore Ravens now sit alone with the NFL's top record at 12-3 as the 49ers in their 6-game winning streak and fall to 11-3. We're going to begin with individual numbers for the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson, 23 of 35, 252, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, quarterback rating of 105.9. He was also the Ravens' leading rusher, 7 for 45 yards, 6.4 yards per run. Gus Edwards, 9 for 31, touchdown, 3.4 per run. Justice Hill, 10 for 26, 2.6 per run. On to the receiving core. Zay catches 72 yards and a touchdown, 13 targets, 8 yards per catch. Isaiah Likely, 3 for 56 on 4 targets, 18.7 per catch. Gus Edwards, 1 grab, 39 yards on his only target. Justice Hill, 331 on 3 targets, 10.3 per catch. Kolar, 1 catch, 17 yards on his only target. Rashad Bateman, 1 catch on 4 targets for 14. Odell Beckham Jr., 2 catches on 3 targets for 13. at 6.5 per catch. Nelson Aguilar, 3 for 10 yards and a touchdown on 4 targets, 3.3 per catch. Ricard, 1 target, no catches. Just Tucker, a perfect 4 for 4 on field goals. Longest was 41, 3 for 3 on extra points. So he scored 15 of Baltimore's 33 points. Stout with 3 punts, 43.3 yards per punt, 56 long. 2 punts inside the 20-yard line. On to the defense. All right. Williams, 5 tackles, 1 pass defense, 1 interception. Stevens, 4 tackles, 2 passes defense. Kyle Hamilton, 3 tackles, 3 passes defense, 2 interceptions. Matabike, 3 tackles. Darby, 3 tackles. Roquan Smith, 2 tackles. Patrick Queen, 2 tackles, 1 pass defense, 1 interception. Marlon Humphrey, 2 tackles, 2 passes defense, and an interception. Urban had 2 tackles. Jones, 2 tackles, and a pass defense for the Ravens. For the San Francisco 49ers, rough night for Brock Purdy. Probably his worst game as a pro. 18 of 32, 255 yards, no touchdowns, and 4, count them, 4 interceptions. QB rating was 42.6. Not good. Sam Darnold replaced Purdy and wasn't much better. 8 of 14 for 81 yards with a touchdown and an interception and a 67.9 QB rating. Christian McCaffrey doing Christian McCaffrey things. 14 rushes, 103 yards, and a touchdown on 7.4 per run. Sam Darnold, 1 rush, 9 yards. Deebo Samuel, 2 rushes, 7 yards, 3.5. Brock Purdy, 1 rush for 2 yards. Okay, George Kittle led San Francisco's receivers. 7 catches, 126 on 10 targets, 18 yards per catch. Brandon Ayuk, 6 for 113 on 7 targets, 18.8 per catch. Deebo Samuel, 4 catches, 47 yards on 12 targets, 11.8 per catch. Christian McCaffrey, again doing Christian McCaffrey things. 6 catches, 28 yards on 10 targets, 4.7 per catch. Bell, 1 catch, 12 yards, and a touchdown on his only target. Kyle Juszczyk, 1 catch, 5 yards on 2 targets. Snead, 1 catch, 5 yards on 2 targets as well. Jake Moody, 1 for 1 on field goals. Only attempt was from 45 yards and 2 for 2 on extra points. Wisnowski, 2 punts, 56 average. Long was 57. 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. Defensively, Gibson with 6 tackles led the way. Fred Warner, 5 tackles, passes defense. Thomas, 4 tackles, 1 pass defense. Brown, Ward, and Bosa each had 3 tackles. Dre Greenlaw had 2 tackles, as did Flanagan Fowles. Grave, 2 tackles, 1 sack. Gregory, 2 tackles, half a sack for the 49ers. 9. Total yards, 49ers 429, Ravens 43. Passing yards, 308 to 41, 49ers. Rushing, 121 to 102, also to the 49ers. Time of possession, Baltimore 31 minutes, 14 seconds. San Francisco 28 minutes, 46 seconds. First downs, 23 for the Ravens and 21 for the Niners. Third downs, 4 of 11 for Baltimore, 6 of 14 for San Fran. Fourth downs, Ravens 1 for 1, Niners 1 for 3. 6 penalties, 67s, 2 sacks taken for 11 yards, no fumbles or interceptions, and 3 punts. 49ers, 10 or 10 penalties for 102. They took 4 sacks for 28 yards. No fumbles lost, a whopping 5 interceptions thrown, and 2 punts. Closing line was San Francisco minus 6.5. Over under was 47. I took the 49ers both ways and lost both ways. And so for the week, I finished 9-7 in my straight up picks and 7-9 in my ATS picks. Now we're going to go to my week 17 power rankings. We'll start at the bottom with the Carolina Panthers, pretty much back where they belong at number 32. They're 2-13, down 1 spot from last week. They're in Jacksonville this week against the Jaguars. Moving up 1 spot to number 31 are the New England Patriots at 4-11. They got the Bills in Buffalo, hoping for a season sweep in the series on Sunday. Now 30, same spot as last week. The Arizona Cardinals at 3-12. In Philly this week against the Eagles. Number 29, also in the same spot as last week, are the New York Giants at 5-10. They host the Rams. Number 28, down 2 spots from last week, are the Tennessee Titans at 5-10. They're in Houston against the Texans. Number 27 is the Washington Commanders at 4-11. They're up 1 spot from last week. They host the 49ers. Number 26 is the Los Angeles Chargers at 5-10, down from 23 a week ago. They're in Denver on Sunday against the Broncos. Number 25 are the New York Jets at 6-9, previously at 27, so they moved up 2 spots. They're in Cleveland for the final Thursday night game of 2023. Number 24 is the Chicago Bears at 6-9, up 1 spot from last week. They host the Atlanta Falcons. Number 23 is the Minnesota Vikings at 7-8, down 2 spots from last week. 22 is the New Orleans Saints at 7-8. Also down 2 spots from last week. They're in Tampa Bay. Number 21 is the Green Bay Packers at 7-8, up 3 spots from last week. They will play the Vikings in Minneapolis on Sunday Night Football. Number 20, up 2 spots from last week, the Las Vegas Raiders at 7-8. Cross-country game in Indianapolis against the Colts. Number 19, down 3 spots, are the Cincinnati Bengals at 8-7. Big game with Mahomes and the Chiefs coming up. Number 18, down 3 spots from last week, are the Denver Broncos at 7-8. They will host the Chargers. Number 17, up 2 spots, are the Pittsburgh Steelers at 8-7. They're in Seattle for a rather tough game with the Seahawks. Number 16, also up 2 spots from last week, are the Atlanta Falcons at 7-8. They're in Chicago taking on the Bears. Number 15, up or down 2 spots from last week, are the Indianapolis Colts at 8-7. They will host the Las Vegas Raiders. Number 14, also down 2 spots, are the Jacksonville Jaguars at 8-7, home against the Carolina Panthers. At number 13, down 3 spots, are the Houston Texans at 8-7. This week, they'll host the Tennessee Titans. At number 12, jumping 5 spots from last week, are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 8-7. They're home for the New Orleans Saints. in a game that could determine the winner of the NFC South. Number 11, up 3 spots from last week, are the Seattle Seahawks at 8-7. Tough home game coming up with the Steelers. And in my top 10, the Los Angeles Rams are up 1 spot to number 10. They are 8-7, and they are in New York this week against the Giants. Down 2 spots to number 9 are the Cleveland Browns at 10-5, and they're playing New York's other team, the Jets, on the Thursday night football season finale. Then you have the Detroit Lions, 11-4, up 1 spot to number 8, and the Dallas Cowboys at 10-5, down 2 spots to number 7. These 2 teams will play in Dallas on Saturday night. At number 6, down 3 spots, are the Kansas City Chiefs at 9-6. They have a big game this week with the Cincinnati Bengals. Unfortunately, it's going to be Jake Browning at quarterback and not Joe Burrow. The Philadelphia Eagles are back in my top 5, up 3 spots to number 5. They are 11-4, and they host the Arizona Cardinals this week in our home finale. Number 4, up 2 spots, are the Buffalo Bills, playing some really good football lately. They are 9-6, and this week they are home for the New England Patriots, trying to exact revenge on the earlier loss in Foxborough. Number 3, up 1 spot, are the Miami Dolphins at 11-4. Big game with the Baltimore Ravens coming up in Baltimore. Down 1 spot to number 2, the San Francisco 49ers at 11-4. They're in Washington this week. And my new number 1 is the Baltimore Ravens, up 1 spot. They are an NFL best 12-3. And they host the Miami Dolphins in a game which may determine who gets home field advantage in the AFC playoffs. Okay, we have one final order of business to get to before we close this thing down, and that's a look at the current playoff races in the National Football League. In the National Football League, I should say, after 16 weeks of play. So, yeah, everything is all set. Perfect. Okay, we'll start as always with the AFC and the 4 division leaders. In the number 1 spot, you've got the Baltimore Ravens at 12-3, and they have clinched a playoff berth. They are 3-2 versus the North, 7-3 in the AFC, 529 strength of schedule, 517 strength of victory. Their Week 17 opponent is the number 2 seed and are also already in the playoffs, and that's the Miami Dolphins at 11-4. 4-1 versus the East, 7-3 in the AFC, 418 strength of schedule, 364 strength of victory. Sitting in the 3 spot and now with no chance of getting the number 1 seed are the Kansas City Chiefs at 9-6. 3-2 versus the West, 7-3 in the AFC, 502 strength of schedule, 452 strength of victory. And in the 4 spot, you've got the Jacksonville Jaguars free falling at 8-7. 4-1 versus the South, 6-5 versus the AFC, 560 strength of schedule, 500 strength of victory. Jacksonville wins the tiebreaker over both Indianapolis and Houston based on head-to-head win percentage. As for the 3 wildcard spots, the number 5 seed is currently the Cleveland Browns at 10-5. 3-2 versus the North, 7-3 in the AFC, 533 strength of schedule, 513 strength of victory. The number 6 seed is the Buffalo Bills at 9-6. 2-2 versus the East, 5-5 in the AFC, 484 strength of schedule, 481 strength of victory. 7 is the Indianapolis Colts. They're in that last spot at 8-7. 3-2 versus the South, 6-4 in the AFC, 480 strength of schedule, 433 strength of victory. Indy wins the tiebreaker over Pittsburgh based on head-to-head win percentage. Divisional tiebreakers were initially used to eliminate Cincinnati and Houston. Pittsburgh owns the tiebreaker over Cincinnati based on head-to-head win percentage. Indianapolis has the tiebreaker over Houston for the same reason. On the outside looking in, you've got the Houston Texans sitting at number 8 with an 8-7 record. 2-2 versus the South, 5-5 in the AFC, 476 strength of schedule, 450 strength of victory. Houston wins the tiebreaker over Pittsburgh based on head-to-head win percentage. Divisional tiebreaker was initially used to eliminate Cincinnati. Again, Pittsburgh wins the tie over Cincinnati based on head-to-head win percentage. So this drops the Steelers to number 9. They're 8-7. 4-1 versus the North, 6-5 in the AFC. 520 strength of schedule, 542 strength of victory. Pittsburgh wins the tiebreaker over Cincinnati, as I said before, based on head-to-head win percentage. And the Bengals are down in 10th at 8-7. 0-5 versus the North, 3-7 in the AFC. 556 strength of schedule, 517 strength of victory. All right, the Raiders and Broncos are both 7-8, so they're next up on the list. Vegas is 3-2 versus the West, 5-5 in the AFC. 450, or rather 484 strength of schedule, 410 strength of victory. And the Broncos are 2-2 in the West, 4-6 in the AFC, 502 strength of schedule, 505 strength of victory. Las Vegas wins the tiebreaker over Denver based on head-to-head win percentage. So Vegas is number 11 in the AFC. Denver is 12. In the 13th spot and eliminated from the playoffs are the New York Jets at 6-9. 1-4 versus the East, 3-7 in the AFC. 520 strength of schedule, 489 strength of victory. The Titans and Chargers are up next. Both are 5-10. Tennessee is 0-4 versus the South, 3-7 in the AFC. 524 strength of schedule, 440 strength of victory. Los Angeles, also 5-10, is 1-3 versus the West, 3-7 in the AFC. 524 strength of schedule, same as the Titans, 400 strength of victory. Tennessee wins the tiebreaker over LA based on head-to-head win percentage. This puts the Titans at number 14 and the Chargers at 15. And at the bottom of the conference still are the New England Patriots at 4-11. 2-2 versus the East, 4-6 in the AFC. 524 strength of schedule, 500 strength of victory. The Jets, Titans, Chargers, and Patriots are all out of the playoff race. Over in the NFC, you have a three-way tie for the conference lead with the 49ers, Eagles, and Lions, and all three of these teams are in the playoffs with two of the three clinching division titles. We'll start with the top-seeded 49ers, 11-4, 5-0 versus the West, 9-1 in the AFC, 520 strength of schedule, 485 strength of victory. San Francisco wins the tiebreaker over Philadelphia and Detroit based on best win percentage in conference games. In fact, San Francisco also has the head-to-head tiebreaker over Philadelphia. This puts the Eagles back in that number 2 spot, already clinching a playoff spot. Oh, by the way, the Niners are NFC West champions. The Eagles are 11-4, 4-1 versus the East, 7-3 in the NFC, 507 strength of schedule, 479 strength of victory. Philadelphia wins the tiebreaker over Detroit based on strength of victory. Number 3, and NFC North champions, first division title in 3 decades, the Detroit Lions at 11-4. 3-2 versus the North, 7-3 in the NFC. 467 strength of schedule, 436 strength of victory. So that means San Francisco is 1, Philadelphia is 2, and Detroit is 3. In the number 4 spot will be whoever wins the NFC South. Right now, it would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 8-7. 3-1 versus the South, 6-4 in the NFC. 507 strength of schedule, 408 strength of victory. In the wild card spots at number 5 are the Dallas Cowboys, already in the playoffs at 10-5. 4-1 versus the East, 7-3 in the NFC. 458 strength of schedule, 387 strength of victory. Number 6 is the Los Angeles Rams at 8-7. 4-1 versus the West, 6-4 in the NFC. 524 strength of schedule, 425 strength of victory. And in that 7th and final playoff spot as of right now are the Seattle Seahawks, also 8-7. 1-4 record versus the West, 6-5 versus the NFC. 529 strength of schedule, 425 strength of victory, which is the same as the Rams. Los Angeles wins the tie over Seattle based on head-to-head win percentage. Again, the Rams swept the Seahawks this year. So those would be your 7 playoff teams in the NFC. Then you've got just a game out with the Vikings, Falcons, Packers, and Saints. We'll start with the Minnesota Vikings at 7-8. 2-2 versus the North, 6-4 in the NFC. 498 strength of schedule, 448 strength of victory. Minnesota wins the tiebreaker over Atlanta based on head-to-head win percentage. The division tiebreak was initially used to eliminate Green Bay. As of right now, the Vikings own the tiebreaker over the Packers based on head-to-head win percentage. They will play on Sunday night in Minneapolis. The division tiebreak was also initially used to eliminate New Orleans. Atlanta wins the tiebreaker over New Orleans based on head-to-head win percentage. So that puts the Vikings at number 8. The Atlanta Falcons are the 9 seed at 7-8. 3-2 versus the South, 4-6 in the NFC. 418 strength of schedule, 438 strength of victory. Atlanta wins the tiebreaker over Green Bay based on head-to-head win percentage. Division tiebreaker was initially used to eliminate New Orleans. Atlanta wins the tie over New Orleans based on head-to-head win percentage. Those 2 teams will meet in New Orleans in Week 18. So that puts the Falcons at 9. Number 10 is the Green Bay Packers at 7-8. 2-2 versus the North, 5-5 in the NFC. 480 strength of schedule, 457 strength of victory. Green Bay wins the tiebreaker over New Orleans based on head-to-head win percentage. This drops the Saints down to number 11 at 7-8 as well. 2-2 versus the South, 4-6 in the NFC. 427 strength of schedule, 305 strength of victory. At number 12 and still mathematically alive are the Chicago Bears at 6-9. 2-3 strength, or 2-3 in the North, 5-5 in the NFC. Strength of schedule is 467. Strength of victory is 378. And then the bottom 4 teams, just like in the AFC, they are eliminated from the playoffs, starting with the number 13 seed New York Giants at 5-10. 2-3 versus the East, 4-6 in the NFC. 498 strength of schedule, 293 strength of victory. Number 14 is the Washington Commanders at 4-11. 0-5 versus the East, 2-8 in the NFC. 493 strength of schedule, 350 strength of victory. Number 15 is the Arizona Cardinals at 3-12. 0-5 versus the West, 2-8 in the NFC. 551 strength of schedule, 556 strength of victory. Not that it means anything, but Washington has the head-to-head tiebreaker over Arizona. That's why the Commanders are higher in the standings. Dead last in the NFC and in the entire NFL still are the Carolina Panthers at 2-13. 1-4 versus the South, 1-10 in the NFC. Ouch. 520 strength of schedule, 500 strength of victory. And that will wrap things up for the Week 16 edition of the week that was, where we just ran through the Sunday afternoon late games, the Sunday night game, and the triple header from Christmas Day. All right, so officially, this is the last week that was for 2023, because the next time we'll talk to you again, it will be 2024. That will be next Tuesday. January 2nd, where we run down every game from week 17. Plus, I'll have my week 18 power rankings and another look at the updated playoff races in the league going into the final week of the 23 season. So make sure you join me next Tuesday for the week 17 edition of the week that was. I will be back tomorrow sometime before 10 p.m. Eastern with my week 17 NFL picks, both straight up and against the spread. I'm expecting a much better record this week after all the upsets that we saw in week 16. So join me for my picks tomorrow. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the pigskin and Happy New Year. Peace out.